This video offers a brief explanation of the Maxwell materials and how to manage them. Open the sample scene in Form Z. The scene contains some standard materials that have been applied to the objects. We will create each Maxwell material in the Maxwell Material Editor and then load them onto the desired surface in Form Z. Open the Maxwell Material Editor. It is a standalone application that allows you to create physically correct materials and save them to be imported into Form Z. This is the Material Editor interface. The materials have a tree structure with layers that contain BSDF components, emitters, coatings, etc. Right-click in the tree area to add a new layer. The BSDF is the definition of a normal surface. Its parameters are divided into three categories: BSDF properties, surface properties, and subsurface properties. You can make a preview render of your material by double-clicking in this area. You can change the scene used for preview renders in the Preview menu. Double-click again in the Preview area to stop the render. First we are going to create a plain diffuse material. Set the color in the Reflectance 0 slot. Reflectance 0 is the color of the surface at front angles. It is also possible to apply a texture by clicking on the checker icon. Choose a color with the color picker. Diffuse materials are characterized by their high roughness value. Set roughness to a high value, like 99 or 100%, to create a pure diffuse material. Use the File menu to save your material in MXM format. Choose Save MXM and set a path for the material file. Back in Form Z, edit the surface applied to the cups, called Style 14. Remove the color map assigned by default. In the Maxwell Render tab, import the material we have created. Browse to the folder and load it. In the Display tab, open the Display Options menu. Open the Maxwell Render Options panel to get access to all the Maxwell Render options. Set a file name and format for the output image and for the MXI file. Set the render time to 1 minute for tests. Check that the other rendering options are OK and close the Maxwell Render Options panel. In the Display tab, hit Maxwell Render to export your scene to be rendered in Maxwell. As you can see, high roughness values produce diffuse materials. Now let's see what happens when we lower the roughness value. Go to the Maxwell Material Editor and set roughness to a medium value like 50%. This should create a semi-reflective material with blurred reflections. Save it with a new name if you want to preserve the previous material. Back in the scene, edit the material applied to the cups and import the new material file we have just created. Render the scene. As you can see, medium roughness values produce blurred reflections. The lower the roughness, the smoother and more reflective the surface will be. Now we are going to create a perfect mirror. Edit the cup material we created. To create a perfect mirror, just lower the roughness value to 0. Reflective surfaces normally have a high refraction index value like 20 to make the reflections more patent. Set the reflectance 0 color to pure white or black to avoid creating a tinted mirror. Save the material with another name if you want to preserve the previous file. Back in the scene, apply the mirror material to the surface of the cups. This is how a perfect mirror is created, with a very low roughness value like 0 and a high refraction index, ND, like 20. This creates a smooth, reflective, mirror-like surface. Now we are going to create a plastic. Edit the material. Plastics are created using a combination of a diffuse surface and a reflective surface. We are going to create a material with two BSDF components, one with a diffuse behavior and another with a mirror behavior. Right-click in the material tree area and choose Add BSDF. The two BSDFs will be mixed together to get the final material. Make sure roughness is set to 99 or 100. The other BSDF will be the mirror we created in the previous steps. Rename it to specular. Check that the roughness is set to 0 and the ND is set to 20. The final material will be a combination of these materials. You can adjust the mix by setting the contribution of each component using the weight parameter. Set the weight of the diffuse component to 95 and the weight of the specular component to 5. In the Preview tab, open the Options window if you need to adjust the preview options. You can create a great variety of plastics by changing the diffuse and specular proportions. In general, a 90:10 proportion is a good starting point. Save the file. Apply the new plastic material to the cups and render the scene. This is how plastics are made, a diffuse component providing the color and a mirror component providing the specular reflections, mixed up with different weights. Now we are going to create a glass material. Edit the material. For a glass material, we are no longer going to need the current components. A quick way to remove them is by right-clicking on the desired layer and choosing Remove Selected to remove that layer from the material tree. Right-click again in the material tree area to add a new layer. Each layer can contain more than one BSDF, as we have seen in the previous steps. For glasses, an important parameter is the transmittance color. It represents the color of the glass. Choose a green color to get a green tinted glass. The attenuation distance is the thickness of the surface over which the surface becomes less transparent and more opaque. Set it to 1 meter to get a very transparent glass. Another important parameter with transparent surfaces is the refraction index ND. Set ND to 1.5, which is the refraction index of common glass. To get a perfectly smooth glass, set the roughness value to 0. Set roughness to a higher value, like 15, if you want to create a frosty glass. For this example, we are using a perfectly smooth glass. Save the material file. Apply the glass material to the cups and render the scene. As you can see, creating an accurate and realistic glass material is very easy with Maxwell Render. Transparent materials cast caustic reflections. Maxwell Render calculates these caustics accurately and automatically. Without a doubt, one of the best places to start learning about materials is the Maxwell Material Gallery. Enter the MXM Gallery at resources.maxwellrender.com. The Maxwell Material Gallery enables you to download thousands of free, physically correct materials to use in your projects. You can perform a search by entering a specific keyword. All contents are free. You just need to register to be able to download materials. Find an interesting material that could be useful for you and hit download to download it. You can use the downloaded material as is or modify it to fit your needs. Unpack the downloaded file. Back in the scene, edit the Style 13 material which is applied to the table and load the downloaded file to it. The downloaded materials can be opened for editing whenever you want. You can adjust their parameters. It is typical having to adjust the scale and tiling of the material to adapt it to the size of your objects. Render the scene with the new material applied. As you can see, Maxwell materials are pretty easy to manage. This was just a getting started tour. To learn how to create more sophisticated materials and for an in-depth explanation of the material parameters, check the Maxwell Render manual. Thank you for watching this video.